Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to South Asian Indian cuisine with a shot at another classic Indian dish, which is a spiced potato and vegetable samosa. For those unfamiliar, a samosa is a dish of South Asian origin which most prominently features a buttered pastry dough that has been stuffed with a savory filling, then fried into a crispy, puffy, delicious pastry. Now, those that have been following along at this point may have noticed that, not unlike a dumpling, the concept of a stuffed buttered pastry transcends many different food cultures, which of course makes sense being that it is not a complicated concept. To my taste, the samosa has a lot of similarities to the Chinese jiao, the Spanish empanada, the Jamaican meat pie, and many others. What is particularly unique about the samosa, however, is that it is most often iconically stuffed with a spiced potato filling, making for a wonderful toothsome vegetarian small bite. Finally, to pair with this, we're also going to assemble one of my very favorite sides to a fried samosa, which is a sweet and savory dipping sauce made from the reduction of tamarind paste, which, though only takes a few extra minutes to make, absolutely elevates this dish to the next level. Okay, so let's get into it.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ding, tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside the snow is falling and friends are calling.
Okay, so kicking things off here first, we're starting off with the filling of our samosas today, which is going to begin with some aromatic veggies. This is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic, followed by 1 inch or about 1 tablespoon of fine minced ginger. Then rounding this out is going to be about a 1/4 cup of cilantro that I'm de-stemming with a fork, then rolling into a tight bunch so that we may fine mince these as well. Next up, rounding out our filling as promised, is 3 medium russet potatoes, which we're peeling then rough chopping. The additional starch in these russets is going to lend well for our mash coming up as well. Finally, last up, rounding out our filling is going to be the spice blend, which we're going to incorporate to our potato filling for just about the most wonderfully aromatic filling that you have ever encountered. Since this is all going to happen on heat, however, I like to measure out these spices beforehand to avoid any scrambling. So, going into my mixing bowl here is a single tablespoon of cumin seed to start, followed by a tablespoon each of garam masala and cumin powder. Then rounding this out is going to be about a 1/2 teaspoon of green chili powder. As you can imagine, this stuff has some heat to it, so dial this bit up or down depending on how spicy you want your samosas. Alright, so moving on to our dough here. Not unlike its cultural parallels, while the Chinese jiao and the Spanish empanada are more typically baked, our samosas today are instead going to be deep fried, meaning that our dough here is going to look a little bit different. Mainly this means that we're going to be less concerned with creating folds of butter that will yield flaky crusts in the bake, and more concerned with creating a dough that's going to properly puff up in the fry. So, going into my mixing bowl here is 1.5 cups of AP flour to start, followed by 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup each of melted butter and water. This to me is the biggest difference in our dough today because a pastry dough would more commonly involve cold or frozen butter to create those nice flaky layers. Then last up, rounding this all out, is going to be a tablespoon of carom seed and a pinch of kosher salt. Now, if you're like me, these carom seeds were pretty tricky to track down. I really only see these in specialty spice shops, so if you need to, fennel seeds or plain old thyme may also be a reasonable sub here as well. In any case, we're mixing this all up until a cohesive dough ball forms. Then I'm covering this with plastic wrap and placing it in an oven with the oven light on to proof for 30 minutes while we take a look at this tamarind sauce next. Diving into our tamarind sauce here, as you can imagine, the primary ingredient for this is tamarind. For those unfamiliar, tamarind comes up in a lot of Southeast and South Asian cooking and is commonly used in its paste form. Some may recall that we have used this stuff in pad thai quite a bit. Tamarind, however, is quite sour and tart, meaning that we are also going to be balancing it out with a good amount of sugar and spices too. So, going into my mixing bowl here first are my dry spices. This is another 1/2 teaspoon of green chili powder to start, followed by a tablespoon each of ginger powder, garam masala, and cumin powder. Then rounding this all out is going to be a whopping half cup of brown sugar, which while that may seem like a lot, if you've ever experienced just exactly how tart tamarind is, you will know that this is absolutely necessary. Finally, I'm rounding this out with a cup of water, then switching to a larger bowl because I underestimated how much liquid this would be. Then I'm mixing this all to combine and we're heading over to the stove. Over on the stove, I have a pot of water at a rolling boil here. Then I'm adding in my rough chopped potatoes so that we may parboil these. Keep in mind that our potato filling is also going to be deep fried later on, so we're really just looking to give these a little bit of a head start. I'm boiling these for about 4 to 5 minutes until they can be pierced with a fork, but still have a relatively good amount of resistance to them as well. Then next, I'm adding these to a large mixing bowl and giving them a quick mash, but keep in mind that we're not making mashed potatoes here though, so I'm stopping relatively early here and leaving our potatoes with a good amount of lumps still, like so. This is gonna give us some nice bites of potato later on. Next up, back over on the stove, we're finishing up our filling here. I have my wok heating up as hot as possible, then I'm adding 4 tablespoons of peanut oil, and as always, long yao for that nice non-stick surface. Then going in here first are my aromatic veggies. Here's our garlic and ginger heading in for 15 seconds until nice and fragrant, followed immediately by our potatoes. I'm giving these a quick toss to keep those aromatic veggies from burning, then adding in about a half cup of frozen peas, followed by our chopped cilantro and about a 1/4 cup of raisins. These are optional, but I do think that they add a nice bit of sweetness to our filling though. I'm giving this all a toss to combine, then adding in my dry spice mixture plus a pinch of kosher salt that for whatever reason is not pictured here. Finally, we're tossing this all to combine until those spices bloom out some wonderful aromatics to fill your house. Then we're removing from heat and letting this filling cool down for 10 minutes while we get to work on our samosas next. Back over on the cutting board, I'm liberally flouring my work surface, then we're breaking out an ounce scale so that we may divide our dough into 12 equal pieces. I'm using my hands here first to work our dough into a coin shape before breaking out my rolling pin and rolling these into what should be a rough triangle shape. This is more like a circle, but I think we'll still be okay. In any case, next I'm folding my dough into a cone here, then pressing the edges shut and adding about 1.5 tablespoons of my filling to the inside of the cone. Then we're going to press the top end shut and we should be left with these cute little triangle shaped pastries, like so. Back over on the stove, I've cleaned out my wok, then I'm adding in my fryer oil and bringing it up to 350 degrees F. Then I'm adding in my samosas 3 or 4 at a time and letting these fry until golden brown. Friendly reminder to make sure that these samosas are firmly pressed shut, or else, of course, you will be sacrificing at least one of your samosas to the eaten but not seen club. Whoops. Finally, last up, I'm emptying out my wok one more time, then reheating over medium-low heat this time so that we may finish up our tamarind sauce. We're letting this simmer over medium-low heat until it reduces into a syrup. Mine took about 5 minutes altogether. Keep in mind that there is a half cup of sugar in this though, so constant agitation is going to be really important or else this stuff is going to start burning. Once we've got a nice reduced sauce going, I'm removing this all from heat, then serving it on the side with some samosas, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so those that have been following along with this series will know that one of my absolute favorite parts about cooking is the fact that a lot of the really core principal concepts in a cuisine will often transcend cultural borders, particularly when they're not super complicated concepts. To me, I see this a lot with things like dumplings and noodles, or in this case, savory pastries. It's just sort of a nice reminder that food is truly a universal language and that everybody loves a buttered pastry filled with stuff. What I do find unique about the samosa, however, is its use of spices in both the filling and the batter, which gives it this incredibly fragrant and lingering aromatic quality. Then to round this out, I also thought it was interesting that the deep fry to our buttered pastry dough creates this crispy, flaky shell, which, while it might look similar to the jiao or empanada, actually has a completely unique textural quality to it. Finally, I said this before and I'll stand by it, this tamarind sauce literally took an extra 5 minutes to make, and it's easily one of my favorite dipping sauces of all time. The tartness of our tamarind balances out our sugars nicely, making for a deeply flavorful and aromatic sauce to pair with our samosas. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a new series that we've been doing that's dedicated to South Asian Indian cuisine, so definitely check out that series next if you haven't yet because there's a lot of these. For the Bay Area locals, the Wu Can Cook Fried Rice Pop-Up is back at Two Pitchers Brewing in Oakland this weekend, so come by and say hi then if you can. More about that at wucancook.com/eats. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice interneters, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Let's go. Let's look at the show. We're riding in a wonderland of snow.